Hello, hello. Restream is telling me to go. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm on my way. So shalom, shalom. Welcome once again to our midweek MIDrash, right there in the middle of your week.
Yes.
The hump day, the camel. Now that would be a Bactrian camel, for those who are interested, because that's the double humps. So that starts with a B, which is sideways.
But
Okay.
it's also
Not the
Prince Spaghetti Day.
dromedary, but the Bactrian. Yes, sir.
Prince Spaghetti Day as well.
Prince Spaghetti Day. Remember Rod Serling? Wednesday is Prince Spaghetti Day. Anthony, Anthony. And the little boy comes running upstairs, and he's got,
Yeah.
I had spaghetti today too. So go figure. And vegetarian meatballs, which were also very good. Because I'm not quite a vegan, but I am a pescatarian. I do have fish like once a week or so. But Anthony, that's going to be on my mind now.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So
Okay. So
good
we
being
are
on,
grateful.
Bob. It's good being on again today,
Oh man.
and looking forward to the study. And yes, so good.
Yes, indeed. Shalom, William.
Hi, William. Welcome. Shalom.
Shalom. It is Tov. It is Tov, Tov, Tov. So, what's going on, guys? I can't hear you. Everything's good on our end. I hope on your end as well, as we continue in our study of this portion and in the book called Bamidbar, which is in the wilderness, in the desert, in the place of testing, and also known as the Book of Numbers, because we get the sense of a census, a sense of a census, and accounting. So we have numbers, and we
Hey,
have
Bob.
everything going for us. Yes, sir.
Bob, check out the name of numbers in the Septuagint in the Greek when you get a chance. Of course, a little teaser there.
So what is it?
It has to do with arithmetic, but check it
Uh,
out.
okay, Wanda, shalom to you too.
Wanda, yes. It's a word associated with our English word arithmetic.
Okie dokie. Artichoke. Okay, I'm just going and getting us on the camera. Okay. All right, here we go. All right. Well, again, we are we're actually reading the text now. We've spent quite a few weeks discussing the subjects of the blessing, of the benediction, how the benediction was given. We covered all that. Now we're actually gonna, with that understood, now we can proceed and understand the sitzen leben, the life setting of the blessing, and kind of visualize it a little bit more with the details that we've been given through history and through some traditions. Some traditions are very good, that are faithful to Yah, and it is Tov, 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 Tov. Okay, I guess I can be right here too. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to hit the phone. Okay. I'm just moving things around, getting things ready to go. Okay, we are ready. And we're grateful for all you who have joined us, whether you're watching us live or whether you're watching us at a later time. We welcome you to come and to check us out. And if you've been watching us from week to week, we thank you. Even if you haven't been watching us, we still thank you, because we're going through these lessons. If we miss something, go back and check. And again, these are not copyrighted uh, recordings here. That whatever you can use, please take. Take. We
Amen.
research things, so it's, we prove all things, we test all things, and we present our case, we present our studies, and it's up to you to prove it, whether it's Tov or Lo Tov. Hadassah, good to see you too tonight. Shalom, shalom.
Amen.
All right. So we're starting to gain some momentum. A little mo is a good thing. So Gilbert, would you please do us the honors and send us hurtling towards reason and enlightenment?
Let's pray.
Yes, sir. That's
Elohim,
it.
you are gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness. Abba, we give you thanks and praise once more, be in your presence this evening, as we lay our burden at the feet of your throne, Father, and thank you for today's blessing. In the mighty name of Yeshua we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. So Herman, why don't you say hello to the good people there, and
Yes.
we'll do a little review from last week, and before
Yes,
we go forward, we take one step backwards and 3 steps forward.
Indeed. So, shalom, welcome, Hadassah. And yes, alrighty. So let's, Bob, before I do the review, the actual review, there is a correction that I would like to share with the audience. Okay. Is it up on the screen there?
It show is.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, folks, as always, you know my style. I like to do a review. However, there is a correction that I would like to present because I misspoke last week and I just want to bring it out and apologize for the error. Okay, so the correction had to do when I spoke about the jussive, the verb form of the jussive, and in particular, what I'm highlighting here in yellow, which is the kaf sofit and that dot inside. I stated that the dot inside the kaf sofit was a mapik. It is not a mapik. The mapik is in the hay, but I'll get that in a moment. It's not a mapik. In this case, the dot is a dagish lane. It's a dagish lane. It is not a doubling dagish. It's the dagish lane. And maybe one day soon I can give a brief study on all the dots in the Hebrew language, which is very interesting and very complex as well. So it is a dagish lane, not a mapik. The mapik is a dot in the final hey. Like for instance here, Yah. Here we have a mapik in the hey, and that indicates to the reader that the final hey is a consonant, not a vowel. Because keep in mind that there is what you call a long A, a comet's hey. So in that case, the hey will function as part of the long vowel, the long A vowel, but not here. The mapik here says that it is a consonant, not a vowel. So that's the correction that I want to present. All right, so now moving on to the review. Last week, I spoke about the divine name and I focused on the Yud prefix and I translated it in my paraphrase, He Who Is. I compared it with the Aleph prefix in the famous passage in Exodus chapter 3. Eheye asher eheye, and I stated that here it is the first person, and this is why it's translated I am who I am. I also stated last week, and I focused on the fact that there is a wa yod interchange in the divine name. Alrighty, so you'll notice that here you have a wa or va, whereas here you have a yud, and we see that quite a bit in many verbs throughout the Hebrew language, biblical Hebrew. I also read from the Targum Jonathan, and I shared that the benediction was viewed as a formula against for protection against demonic forces. It was a prayer for blessings when studying the Torah, and also associated with prayer. And then I asked a trivial question regarding the birth order of Amram's children. And I stated that Moses was the baby of the family. He was the youngest. But although the youngest, he had the authority to order his older brother, Aaron. And the lesson that I got from that was do not open the door to pride, because if Aaron were a prideful person, he would have not taken orders from his younger brother in public. So that was one of the lessons that I got from that. And also, the other lesson that I got is that Yahweh may be using a younger family member either to guide you or to rebuke you. Don't let pride get in the way. That was something else that I shared last week. And then I shared from Proverbs, pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall. So sometimes, or not sometimes, it is very important to be humble. Okay, and then finally, I believe I spoke about Moses' name in the Torah and throughout the Tanakh. It's written with the cholim, and then you have the extra dot there as a diacritical mark. Sometimes it's written without the cholim, where the diacritical mark does double duty as a vowel and a diacritical mark, as the cholim diacritical. And I stated that this spelling, the latter spelling, is often found in commentaries. And Bob, that is all for the review. I have verse 22 and verse 23 ready. So I'd like to turn it over to you. Okay. I'll go back to verse 22.
Okay, I was just thinking with regards to it was improper for the young sibling to lord it over his brothers, and that's probably why you had such a strong reaction from the brothers of Yosef back in Bereshit, where they were saying, we're going to bow down to you. And then even his father and his mother was saying the same thing. Hey, wait a minute, we're all going to bow down to you,
Right.
And wondering if maybe he had gotten a little too heady for his own good. And, the other thing is with you mentioned the hay of the sacred name and the yud, the hey yud hey, even that the yud represents Yah, represents the hand of the Creator, and the hey is the consonant of revelation. It is hineni, here, behold, and how Yah divides his name in essence to Yud Hey and then to Waw Hey. We are the number of the letter Waw, or Vav is the number 6. So when we think of Yah and working with us, giving us a Hey, just as he gave Avram a Hey to become Avraham, he gave Sarai a Hey to become Sarah. He gives those to those who are of the offspring. Remember, Yeshayahu points out, I believe it's chapter 51, which reminds us that our parents, are good, salt of the earth people, hopefully, but our spiritual parents are Avraham and Yitzhak. Avraham and Sarah, that we've been carved out of that rock. We are of the same substance and the same potential of being, labeled as chavarim of Yahuwah as well as to each other. We are, when we refer to Avram as his friend, as a chaver. So, on top of everything else, to be known as an Eved, a servant of Yah, and then for Mashiach to refer to us as his brethren, and then to also take yet another step up to see that the eternal Yah considers us his Havarim also, that he gives us of his hay, and the gift of the Ruach of prophecy and of walking as Messiah walked, by having the Ruach HaKodesh in our lives, and that we're walking at a different pace, a different level as the rest of humanity, because we have that Ruach advantage. Okay, Gideon was also the smallest also. Amen. And there's that old joke about who are the smallest people in the Bible. And one was, I forget his name, but he was the Shuhite. And that Simon Peter was very small because he fell asleep on his watch. So those are the small people. But there are no small people before Yah, because
Amen.
We can all rise to the occasion. We can all surprise ourselves from time to time. And Yah puts a lot of stock in us. He has a lot of expectations placed in us where we say, oh, I could never do that. There was in the last century, Mr. Ford, who created the American automobile, right? He once said, and he was not necessarily a good man, but he said, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're always right. So if we think that we can't do it, if we think there's no way I can do that, you won't. You won't. And as long as you acknowledge that it is Yah who drives you, you can't do it on your own for sure. But with Yah guiding you, and feeding you his truth. We can do anything. We can do anything. And it's when we actually believe that we get confidence, which is confides, which is with faith. Our faith improves and increases because we are walking on the derech emunah, the path of faith, which is illuminated by the Torah, which is illuminated by the words and the instruction of the Most High. He speaks the word, and we breathe in the word, just as he gave us life. He breathed into our nostrils the breath of life, the exhalation of Yahuwah. He breathes, and there's quite a few important words which are created with the exhalation. And he breathes into us of his goodness and his mercy. And that's why this blessing has been long in the addressing in our study, because we need to have a good understanding how it came about and what we need to do in response to it. And there's a lot of people who think, no, nothing, we just accept it, move on. No, there's a huge a blessing which comes with a charge that we would walk as the recipients of that breath of life, that commission in our lives. We have a great commission to execute in our lives. We've surrendered to him, and we have volunteered our services. He doesn't draft us; we have to volunteer, and so we have, and there's much to be expected from us. I mean, the word says that I can do all things through Messiah who strengthens me. Yes, indeed. Yes, we can do all things through Messiah who strengthens us. If you would have told Noach that he'd have to build a ship to carry 2 of every unclean and 7 pairs of every clean animal, he would have said, "Excuse me, I didn't even make a boat for my bathtub. How am I going to make a boat that big?" And just like everything else that Yah puts on us, he tells Moshe, "You get a couple skilled people, and you're going to build the ohel. You're going to build the tabernacle, the tent, the mishkan." And so, going down the line to Shaul, who was told to stricken blind, you're going to reach all those who are lost, the lost sheep of the house of Israel, and the strangers. You're going to bring them to the truth of Yah. So, anyway, so let us continue with the first 2 verses of 6:22 and then 6:23.
Righty.
Okay. And we pretty much covered 22 last week, but in context with 23, it's like a repetition. It's a chain of command. So in Yah spoke to Moshe, saying, "Speak to Aharon and his sons, saying, this is the way you shall bless the Bnei Yisrael. You are to say to them," and then what follows is the blessing. So we see that first, Yah speaks to Moshe, and what he says to him. And what he says to him is that Aharon is now to speak, and to his sons. So just like Moshe and Aharon were like Yahuwah and the Navi, that they would treat them in that manner. Just like Shaul, the apostle Shaul, not the king, the failed king, but Shaul and Barnabas were presented as being a deity and a malach who would speak for them. So this is very important that we understand Moshe's role. He was humble enough to deal with this office that he was called into to fulfill. So again, we have 23 there. Okay, so let me just go over quickly what it says in verse 22 also. It says, Vayeh daber, and he spoke. Davar is the speaking process. Yahuwah is Yah. El Moshe, and he spoke, Yahuwah, to Moshe, le more, to say, Amar. And then we see almost a repetition verbatim of what follows in 23. Okay? Daber. Okay, tell or say or speak, coming from the same root, davar, which is the word, which is a thing of importance. Okay. El Aharon. So Yahuwah spoke to El Moshe, and here he's telling Moshe, Daber El Aharon. Aharon. Say or tell. That's also davar, to tell, to speak. Okay? It's a matter. Okay? It's advice. It's an answer. It can represent a lot of things. But we usually think of the davar in relation to Messiah as being the davar Yahuwah, the davar Hashem, the word of Yah. Okay? So tell to Aaron, okay, Va'el Benai, okay, and to the sons, the word Ben is singular, Benai is plural, and to the sons of him, Le, more, to say. So again, we have those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost a mirror reflection. So just like when Yah tells us to say something, he doesn't want anything to add to or subtract from. He gives us direct instructions, and we are not to improvise, as I'm always saying. We don't improvise. We don't feel the need to improve upon that which Yah gives us, because that's where we usually end up with problems. Okay? Speak to Aaron and to his sons, saying, okay? Ko, thus. And again, this comes from Yahoch, okay? To be right, thus, okay? Judge, maintain, or reason, okay? Okay. Tifarachu, okay? And we have, believe it or not, we have the word for blessing right in there. You shall bless. And the root of that is to kneel again, okay? Thus, you shall bless. Okay, you shall kneel before them. Tevarachu, and you shall bless. Thus, this is the way, the right way, the correct way. You are to bless. Okay. Et b'nei. Okay. Et is an interesting word or a non-word. It's a sign of the direct object. But I'm starting to see that there's been hundreds of times where that word et has been removed from the Hebrew text. And when you look at the word, it's Aleph Tav. Messiah said, I am the beginning and the end. And the it is the Aleph Tav. It is the first and the last letter of the alphabet. And so there are times when I believe it was meant to be understood that way, as well as just a sign, a flare saying this is the direct object that's being spoken of, because Messiah is the one who gives the distinguishing mark upon those who are faithful, okay? Thus you shall bless Yahuwah, essentially, the sons of Yisrael, the sons of Israel, okay? And the word ben comes from benah, which is a son, a child, young. There's also a sense of building. The son is the builder of the family name. So there's a sense when the patriarchs long for a child, and we take it for granted. Okay, I got a few kids. But back then, the children were the ones who would take your legacy to the next stage and build upon it, even as we're talking about it, even as we see the blessing that's given is steps. It's steps to connect with Yah, even as the vision that Yaakov received about the ziggurat, which are step, and at the top was Mashiach, was on the top was Av, the Father. And Messiah referred to himself as being that stairway where the Malachim, the angels, ascend and descend upon him, being given their marching orders and having fulfilled them to return back to the Father and report the results and then come right back out and go be sent again. Because the Malachim, the Malach, is a messenger. It is one who is eager to get the message out. 5 is the number of Adonai's grace for mankind. Yeah, the fivefold ministry, a lot of these things all connect, and it's a beautiful thing to see. Thus, you shall bless. Okay, how are we to bless? I'm going to tell you. So it builds up the anticipation. Thus, you shall bless, and you shall humble yourself in the blessing, which is an interesting idea, that we humble ourselves in the
Yes.
process of blessing. Okay? And Berucha, Berecha rather, also refers to a reservoir, a pool, where camels kneel, and we get that humbling process in the giving and in the receiving of the blessing. Okay? Okay, and the sons of Israel. And thus you shall bless the Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel. And we see that term used throughout the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, the children of Israel. And we'll say the children of Israel and some of the adults also. But the Bnei Yisrael were the ancestry of Yisrael, Bnei of Yitzhak and Avraham as well. So it goes back to the promise. The Bnei Israel are the recipients, the vessel of the blessing, and now they are to carry that blessing to the next generation, to the next. Because remember, Israel was to be a light for the nations, was part of the blessing. So they are the light holders, the bearers of truth, and it's by the receiving, the humble reception of the blessing, and as He gives the blessing to us, and then we bless others as well. Our life is a blessing, is a time of giving, is an essential part of who we are. Just like Noten HaTorah, Yahuwah is the giver of the law, the giver of the instruction. So are we, as He gives it to us. Just like He gave us Shabbat, He gave us the Sabbath. He made it holy, and He requires that we keep it holy. He gave us instruction to maintain and to keep, to shamar, to guard, to protect, and to live, so that others will see and they will learn. They will learn to fear Yah. As it says in Psalm 40, I waited patiently for Yahuwah, and He inclined and heard my cry. He heard me. He lifted me up out of the miry pit and established my goings on the solid rock. And I will sing a new song of deliverance of Yeshua. And many will see and many will fear Yah as well. Okay? So, you kneel to the sons of Israel. Okay? And interesting again with Yosef, that his brothers were kneeling to him also. They were bowing themselves to him. The youngest being the recipient of the blessing and honoring him. And it turns out that as Yosef was humbled through what he endured, he was able to bless and bestow the bread of life to the world as well as to his unique family. So you shall bless the sons of Israel. This is how you to bless the children of Israel. Okay. Amor, to say, lahem, to them. Lahem, to them. And we can almost see the bread of life being delivered in the blessing, right? Lechem is bread. Messiah born in Bet Lechem, the house of bread, and giving the bread of life. Your forefathers ate bread in the wilderness and they're dead. But I'm offering you the bread of life that is eternal, which is what a blessing is, because it doesn't stop with you. If Yah blesses you, it's carried to the next generation. It never goes out. It always stays and bears fruit and is faithful. The blessing never ends. The blessing continues. And we walk in the blessing, or we snuff it out by our misdeeds and our rejection
Yes.
of the blessing. And it's a fine knife's edge sometimes that we have to walk as Messiah walked, maintain the integrity of the word, carry out the fulfillment of the ethics of the scriptures. And the way to remember that is in the Greek, the ethos of theos. the little switching of one letter, the ethos of theos. So we need to maintain the ethical standard, the high ethical standard, and stop shrugging our shoulders, saying, "Well, I'm only human." No, Yah has made you a new creation in Messiah. So it's not we're going to try our best, because Yah has given us our marching orders through the blessings, and He wants us to bless others. The blessing doesn't stop with us; it goes on. We become conduits of blessings. We have the blessing of Yahweh, and we bring
Yes.
it to someone else. So we wonder with people, how are they going to come to know Yah? Well, allow them to come to know you. Allow them to know you, who you are, and put up not a false image or an idol or an icon, but a genuine you, a new creation you, not the old you, but the true you, the one that Yah is communicating with and giving you the blessing, because we are that new person. And the idea of a blessing, He's going to bless everybody. A blessing is given as a reward of something. This is not out of nothing or for no reason. A true blessing comes in response. Just like when you're working, you get a paycheck. You're saying, "Huh? What? Why is this? You've been a faithful employee. This is what the standard is." That's why Shaul says, you know, when he's preaching, it says, whether I feel like it, I wake up one morning, I'm really not into it. So I do so because I've been charged to do this. So I'm not always happy and dancing through the lily field. Some days I'm really not up to it, but Yah is up to it always, and He still uses me, and I still remember who I am to Him as His emissary, as His shaliach, the one who is sent with that blessing, with that teaching, with that understanding, and that we would get that sense of urgency to the message of the Besarah, the gospel of Yah, of the kingdom, the Machuta Elohim. Right? We are to preach the kingdom of Yah, because the prince has come, the king has come, and we are to become his citizens now, not when he returns, but now we are to develop into the citizens of Yah and his Malchut that we represent now, not then, but now. Today is the acceptable day of salvation, the acceptable day of Yeshua, that He rules and He reigns in our lives. And when people are wondering, well, where is, quote unquote, where is God in this world? Well, we are the lights of this world. We are to represent Him and to serve Him. We are Evadim. We are the servants of the Most High. That's the big title that we should aspire to, not the big shot. Like I talked this past Sabbath, I think I might have talked this past Sabbath, with the carrying of the Ark of the Covenant, right? The Torah told them how to carry the Ark, but the Philistines put it in a cart and they released it because they were being hurt by trying to use the Ark themselves. So they put it in a cart and let it loose. And so the children of Israel were more interested in carrying the Ark the way the Philistines do, not the Philippines or the Philadelphians, the Philistines. Okay, the Philistines had more reverence for Yah than the children of Israel did. They kept it, they didn't touch it, but they put a box next to it. They didn't try to open up the lid and put these golden offerings, which featured these welts and bruises and scabs and things like that. They made a golden replica of their suffering while the ark was there, because it didn't belong to them. So David gets frustrated. He says, "Whoa, what's going on here?" Because it started to stumble. The oxen started to stumble because the ark didn't belong on there in the first place, and they paid with his life. And I use that analogy that we want to put the things of Yah in a cart, because what is a cart? It's filled with boards and big wheels, and that's what most communities of faith are filled with. They're filled with boards. We have to have a meeting. We have a board meeting next Tuesday, and we're going to do this. And big wheels. I'm the big wheel. I'm the head rabbi, the head pastor, whatever. So boards and big wheels get in the way of carrying the message of Yah, because that's what the ark was. It was the Torah. It was the ark. It was the rod that had budded, right, and the plate of manna, and ultimately it was just the two tablets of the of the devarim, of the words. So we have to learn how to carry the ark properly. There was one family that was entrusted to do that. I couldn't do that. I'm not part of that family. So I know that I'm limited in my ministry, that I can't do certain things. I can't carry the ark, even if they ever find it next Tuesday. I can't be one of the people who are in charge of that. At least as far as I know, I'm not related. We don't know that. That's why the ark is missing as it is today. So again, one family were responsible for carrying the ark on their shoulders, bearing the burden on the shoulder, and carrying it as Yah would have it to be done. So he gives us the blessing to disperse in the way that he would have it to be done, not the Philistine way of putting it on a cart with big wheels, right? But to carry it, because he's given us all the ability to carry the burden. The burden of the word came upon me, thus and thus. We need that burden. We need a burden to keep going, because what happens? What happens is that a ship has to carry ballast right in the center of the ship. It could be anything. It could be just junk metal. It could be anything. And why? Because right in the center of that ship, it stops it from wandering. So that burden, which seems superfluous to us, is serving its purpose. So the burden that we bear keeps us from wandering, keeps us from listing to one side. And then we get into the politics, right or left. And we're being carried away by these things. But we're not listening because we have that burden that is burning in our hearts to release and to keep that chain of command going. From Yah to Moshe, to Aaron, to his sons, to David, to Mashiach, to Yochanan and Kepha, to us. Many, many links in that chain. And there's not one weak link, because Yah has cleaned and purged the floor of the dross of any potential weak links. That's why Shaul had to go. King Saul, he had to go. But anyway, I'm going on a little bit, but that's good. It's tov, because we need to get these reminders of how wonderful Yah is. And Herman, did you have any comments on any of the Hebrew or anything?
Yes, actually, I do have a few comments, but I'm glad that you mentioned the concept of being the conduits. We have to be conduits of blessings as well. I hope to share on that. And the fact that carrying the burden, because that's how I'm going to open up today's study, because I consider Aaron to be the commissioned carrier. And you will see how that develops. So let me go to my notes here. So I like the fact that you talked about we have to carry that burden and so on. That's pretty good. That ties quite well with what I have. So as I said regarding Aaron, I said last week that he was a humble person to be able to listen to his younger brother. But Aaron, I see Aaron as the commissioned carrier. He was commissioned to carry something, and I'm going to share what that something was. We know that as high priest, he had a beautiful outfit that he had to wear for beauty and for glory. And we find that in Exodus chapter 28. Now, pardon, among that attire, that beautiful attire, there were two stones that were on his shoulders. And on those stones were engraved the names of the tribes of Israel. And in addition to that, he had to carry a breastplate. He had a breastplate on with 12 stones, and engraved on those stones were also the names of the tribes of Israel. We find that in Exodus chapter 28. So you mentioned about carrying the burden, right? Aaron, as a representative, carried the sons of Israel on his shoulders and over his heart to represent them before the Lord. It was his responsibility to bear that burden, right? He had the responsibility of the nation before Yahweh. But it doesn't end there, right? Because Aaron also had to carry that golden plate that was on his forehead. And inscribed on that plate was Yahweh's name, Yah's name. And he had to wear that and carry that as the Lord's representative And he had to be very, very careful not to bring reproach as the Lord's representative. He had to be careful not to bring reproach upon the Lord. So here we have him representing the whole nation, as well as representing the Lord. Talk about being caught in the middle, carrying, huh? So this is why I think of Aaron as the commissioned carrier. He symbolically carries both parties while actually representing both parties simultaneously. And it's the same with us, Bob. You mentioned that, right? It's the same with us. We are to represent our families. We are to represent our loved ones, our close friends when we need to intercede as priests, and we represent them before the Lord. And as followers of Yah, we are to represent Him before our family. And we as priests, right, New Covenant priests, we have to be careful and not to bring reproach upon the Lord by our words and deeds as we represent Him. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Bob, about carrying the burden, because yes, we, in a sense, carry the burden as well, as Aaron did. So shifting gears here a little bit, the text says, "Speak to Aaron and to his sons." So Moses was not only to speak to his brother, he was to speak to his nephews as well. He was to tell his nephews what to do and what to say. So I have a question. How many nephews did Moses address? Now, we know that's the question. How many nephews that Moses addressed? I'm going to give you my opinion. I can't prove it, but I'm going to give you my opinion regarding that. Now, we know that Aaron had 4 sons, and we find that in Leviticus chapter 10 and Numbers chapter 3. Now, although I'm not dogmatic in this, because it's my opinion, I'm not dogmatic on this point, but I am inclined to believe that Nadav and Abihu, they had died before these instructions were given. I lean in that direction. That is my opinion, and I'm open to any suggestions. So I think that, pardon, since Nadav and Abihu may have died before these instructions were given, when Moses is addressing his nephews, he is addressing Eleazar and Ithamar. And it's very possible that he may have been addressing Phinehas as well, if Phinehas was old enough. Because remember that the text says, "Speak to Aaron and to his sons." And in that culture, grandsons were considered as sons as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I'm not dogmatic about whether or not Nadav and Abihu died, but I am dogmatic about this part that I got from thinking about this. The part that I'm dogmatic about is that foolishness can cause us to forfeit a valuable ministry that the Lord has for us. All right? So, and I want to repeat that because it's very important, folks. Foolishness on our part can cause us to forfeit a valuable ministry, and it can also cause us to forfeit blessings that the Lord has for us. So please think about that as you live your life day to day. Strive to stay away from that. Things that would bring reproach to the Lord and the foolishness that can set us back and cause us to forfeit blessings. Alrighty, so the text in verse 23 also says, this is the way that you shall bless. This is the way you shall bless, right? So we know that the Birkat Kohanim is to be recited verbatim because the Lord says, this is the way you should do it. And so this is the way it's recited. And in the past, I've shared that the Talmud teaches in Sota 38a that it is to be strictly recited in Hebrew. Now, I have 2 issues with that. The first issue is that the text does not say that it is to be recited only in Hebrew. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that. That's number one. And number two, the Lord is not limited in any way, shape, or form, including language. So I believe, if the Aaronic Benediction is recited in Swahili, if it's recited in German, whatever the language may be, I think the Lord is quite aware of what is being recited, and it's His prerogative to bless or not. Okay, so that's what I wanted to share regarding the point when it says, "And this is the way you shall bless." Now, is it beautiful if it can be recited in Hebrew? Absolutely, absolutely. But not all people can recite it in Hebrew, but they can recite it in another language with all their heart, and it's up to the Lord to bless or not.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here I have another question for you. All right, we know that the priests, and as you said, Bob, right, we are to be conduits. We know that the priests are simply the avenue, they are the conduit through whom the blessing comes. But would it matter to you, folks, audience, would it matter to you if the priest was in adultery, or if the priest were an idolater, if the priest were living in open sin, a sinful lifestyle? Would that matter to you? Right? That's an important question. But even though he's just a conduit, but would it matter? I would say that as far as I'm concerned, it would matter to me. I would prefer to receive the blessing, those words from a priest that is living a sanctified life. Sure, the priest is a conduit, but I prefer a clean conduit, right? Just like a water, right? The conduits, sometimes water traveled through a conduit, right? I don't want to drink water from a conduit that's contaminated in a way that can harm me, right? I want to drink water from a conduit that's clean. And so too, I would lean towards receiving it. It would be important to me. It would be important for the priest to live a sanctified, holy life, to strive to that, so that I can receive it through that clean conduit, even though they are just the instrument, the avenue. Alrighty. So we know that the priests were to be instrumental in blessing the nation of Israel. But if we take it a step further, we know that the nation of Israel was to be a kingdom of priests to the world, right? And this idea, folks, this idea of Israel being a kingdom of priests to the world, we find that idea, first of all, in Exodus chapter 19, just before the Ten Commandments are given, the 10 words, right? But this idea is beautifully, beautifully brought out in Psalm 67. And I really do want to read Psalm 67. I should have had it set up. Let me just go to the Psalms here. Psalm 67. Let me go to the program here and read Psalm 67. And if you have a Bible there, please open it up, because I really want you to see how Psalm 67 ties in with the idea of the Aaronic Benediction, number one, because that's what we're studying, right? We're studying the Aaronic Benediction. It ties in with the Aaronic Benediction, and it also ties in with Israel being a kingdom of priests to the nation. And by extension, we too, we are to be priests. So let me go to Psalm 67. The poet here in Psalm 67, he prays a portion of the priestly blessing
Can I
with the intent
have
that the nations would be blessed through the priestly blessing, through the priestly nation of Israel. So let me go to it. I'm not going to dwell too much on it, but I am going to strongly recommend that you read it in light of what we're studying here. So Psalm 67, it says, "To the chief musician on string instruments, a psalm, a song." Now, in the New King James, it says, "God, be merciful to us and bless us." But so happens this is in the Joseph. So it would be translated better, "May God be merciful to us and bless us, and cause his face to shine upon us." Selah. This is the part where the psalmist is quoting from the Aaronic benediction. He is praying for mercy, right? He's praying for the Hanan, that grace, Han, right? Yochanan, the word Han, right? Hanan. He's praying and he's asking the Lord to be merciful upon us. Notice the us. He's not saying me, us. And then he's praying that the nation will be blessed, and that the Eternal One will cause his face to shine upon us. So that's the prayer that he is blessing. And here comes the purpose. Here's the purpose: that your way may be known on earth, your salvation among all nations, because that was one of their roles, right? To be a kingdom of priests to the nations. Verse 3: let the peoples praise you, O God. Let all the peoples praise you. Notice in the Joseph, desiring a wish. Oh, let the nations be glad and sing for joy, for you shall judge the peoples righteously and govern the nations on earth. Selah. Let the peoples praise you, O God. Let all the peoples praise you. Once again in the Joseph, because that is his wish, that is his desire. And the intent of the Aaronic benediction is that the nations would be blessed, right? That's what the Joseph communicates: a wish, a desire, an intent, a longing. And then it says in verse 6, then, if that were to happen, then the earth shall yield her increase. God, our own God. Now he goes back to the plural, to the nation, to Israel, to the nation of Israel. God, then our God shall bless us. God shall bless us, and all the ends of the earth shall fear him, will have reverence to him. So notice here how the poet draws from the Aaronic benediction. He wants the blessing, he wants the grace and the mercy, he wants the Eternal One's face to shine upon them, with the intent that the nations will receive a blessing through Israel, the kingdom of priests. All right, let me go back to my notes here. Please, folks, read Psalm 67 again in light of the Aaronic benediction. Okay, so moving on. As I said,
Can I insert something really quick? Another
absolutely,
thing
absolutely,
that is important with regards to Psalm 67,
yes.
it's often recited during Shavuot, the giving of the Torah, for two reasons. There's 7 verses and there's 49 words in there. So the giving of Torah and the connection between the giver of the Torah, Noten Torah, and the speaker of the Torah, and the hearer and doer of the Torah are all part of that chain of command. So I just wanted to throw in a couple shekels on that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I didn't want to divert into Psalm 67, but it's written beautifully. It's a chiastic structure, and I'm not going to get into it. But folks, on your own time, study Psalm 67 in light of the Birkat Kohanim. As I said, is written in a chiastic structure. Alrighty, I'll move on. Let me go back to my notes. Okay, so we know that as New Covenant priests, we are to be instrumental in imparting blessings to our loved ones, our family members. We are not to hoard the blessing, folks. There are people that are hoarders. There are people that are hoarders, and they just accumulate and accumulate stuff, and they fill their houses and they just hoard. Okay, don't be a spiritual hoarder. Be the conduit through which blessings and light can come to you, through you, to your loved ones, to friends, co-workers, and so on. Remember what Yeshua teaches in Matthew chapter 10. Freely we have received, freely give. Okay? If he gives us light, be a light. If he gives a blessing, you share that blessing. Okay? Don't hoard it. All right? And now, if you feel that you cannot impart any blessings because you don't have any blessings, then get right with the Lord. Get right with the Lord. Seek those blessings and then share them with others. Okay. Hey, Bob, I'd like to transition now and just talk a little bit about grammar. As I do this and as I go to the PowerPoint, maybe if you want to share something.
Oh, while you set up, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, a couple quick things. With regards to the name, as I was a kid, I remember I was a big baseball fan in the 1960s, and I remember getting a baseball card that had like the top 3 batting averages, and the first, whichever order it was, it had Bob Clementi. He says, Bob Clementi? Wait a minute, who's Bob? Bob Clementi? That looks like Roberto Clemente. And I remembered
Yeah.
Robert and Bob. Says, why did they write Bob? Why did they give him the name that he's been given? So, with regards to respecting Clemente, they should have had his name as he was known, as he was called, and not to necessarily just make us feel good because we do. And again, I was with what you were talking about, the clean vessel is
Yes.
completely, totally right. And then I was also looking at with regards to the pure language that Zephaniah points out.
Yes.
The 3rd chapter of his epistle, in which he speaks of the restoration. And let me just see if I have that handy.
Okay, Bob, I'm setting up here. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. On the restoration. Bob?
Yeah. I'm just looking, got my Hebrew here. It's hard for me to. Okay, what is that verse in Zephaniah 3 about the language?
Yes, I believe, if I remember correctly, it was a
9.
rebuke that some were speaking the language of Canaan and so on. I don't remember the verse offhand.
Okay, well, if you're ready, go right ahead. And
I'm ready. I'm ready. Yes. Okay. So I want to touch on 2 points here when it comes to the grammar. I want to touch on this word here, tevarechu, which is well. Let me just read the verse. Speak to Aaron and his sons, saying, "This is the way you all." And notice that I added the word "all." You all shall bless. And this is what I want to focus on for now. And the next word will be bene. I want to focus on a construct. So those are the 2 grammatical points that I want to share. So, all right. So regarding this word, te varachu, unfortunately, modern English has dropped the second person masculine plural, ye. Or yea, hear ye, right? You know that famous expression, hear ye. We don't use the word yea anymore in English. And the problem with that is that in modern English, when we read something like this is the way you shall bless, we don't know if it's a you plural or a you singular. It's indistinguishable. You can't tell in the English, but you can tell in the Hebrew. Okay, so this is one of the problems, and this is why I wanted to bring it out. This you here in the English should be in the plural, and this is why I added you all, or as we say here in the South, y'all. But more on that later on. So hence, you all priests shall bless in this manner. Okay, interestingly, the King James Version words it this way: on this wise, yea, shall bless the children of Israel. Notice they have the yea because in the older form of English, they distinguish between the you singular and the you plural. Here in the South, we say informally y'all. It's informally, of course, when a person is speaking to a group, second person plural, y'all. Alrighty, so how do we know that it should be understood as you all? How do we know it? By the prefix and the suffix. And I highlighted the prefix here, the tau prefix, because this here, this tau or tav prefix is the you. This is the you, right? That communicates the you masculine. However, the suffix, which is the shurik here, that suffix communicates the plural. So it's you bless, you all shall bless. It's very awkward in English to translate it literally. You can't do it. But here is the you and here is the all. And then, of course, here's the shoresh, the beit, the resh, and the kaf, the root, the shoresh, in the middle there, the root word. Okay? So that's why we know that the you is in the plural. So when it says, speak to Moses, this is the way you all shall bless the nation, the you is in the plural. Okay, so now I want to speak about this expression in the English here, children of Israel, B'nai Yisrael. And Bob, you touched on this, right? You touched on this a little bit. Literally, it would be sons of Israel, but we know this is a general way. It's a general expression. The descendants of Israel, referring to everyone, not just the men. The blessing is not just for the men, for the males. It's for the females as well. It's just a general term, B'nai Yisrael. But what I want to focus on is the Sered Yod construction here. The Sere are the two dots under the Nun, and then, of course, the Yod. This is a very, very common and very important construction in the Hebrew language. It's called a construct. Okay, so the two dots and then the Yod. And this is what you will call in the genitive form, children of, children of. Moving on, I'm going to give two examples here where we have that Sere Yod masculine plural construct. Here we have a very famous expression, Elohei Yisrael, Elohei Yisrael, the God of Israel, right? Exodus chapter 5. Notice the Sere Yod construct, right? God of, the Elohim of Israel. Here I have another example in Genesis 19, men of the city, Anshe Ha'ir. And there is that Sere Yod construct again, men of. All right. So let me go back here. So in the text, when you see, and you'll see it all over throughout the Tanakh, you're going to see this construct, that Sere Yod construct, and the end of a word, that would be of ownership, the genitive, and it would be the sons of, the daughters of, Benot, the daughters of Israel, and so on. Alrighty, so that's what I want to share. Bob, any questions on that? Because that's all I have for now. There's an image here of an image that I pulled up from online, where the priest has the stones written on the shoulder, right, engraved with the names and the 12 stones, which he bears the burden, he carries as a representative, and the divine name, which he also carries as the Lord's representative. Right? This is why I call him the commissioned carrier. He's caught in the middle as representative of both. And with that, Bob, I'd like to turn it over to you.
Okay. Oh, it's 8:32. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just say one real quick thing, as I was saying, with regards to Yephaniah. Chapter 3, verse 9 says, "For then I will restore to the people the pure language, that they all may call on the name of Yahuwah to serve him with one accord." And the one accord literally means with one shoulder. With one shoulder. That they're all united. They all present to Messiah, who offers us his yoke. He takes the one half. Yoke is 2 oxen, right? The 1 oxen would be him, who's the leader, and then he invites us to be discipled of him and to walk with him, because that was the practice, that they would take an experienced ox to teach a newcomer, teach him the ropes. And this just like the bowing to your sensei, that eventually you would open up a school in the same way that your master has taught you. So you will learn, and you will be teaching another. So to be yoked together with Messiah. And there's a word in the Greek which is Christou. So my yoke is easy, my burden is light. We don't understand that. My burden is, again, we're talking about burdens, is anointing, has an anointing. So we offer our shoulder. We're not stiff-necked, and we're not all over the place. We're disciplined. We're learning how to do it. Messiah's taking his time and making sure that we move at a pace that's comfortable to us. And it's just beautiful that he will restore to serve him with one shoulder. That's beautiful. One accord. We are all of that one shoulder, united to bear the burden, even as Mashiach had the burden of the the execution stake, right? That Shimon had to help him bear to the Golgotha. He offered his shoulder, and we need to offer our shoulder to each other, metaphorically speaking, and sometimes we need to defeat it literally. So, amen. I'll wrap it up there. And once again, Herman, excellent stuff. Excellent stuff.
Thank you.
Amen. Let's see. Indeed, otherwise we would receive whatever is. Right. Okay.
The residue. I'm sorry, Bob. I think William is referring to the residue that's in the conduit.
Right.
We want a clean conduit. We want a clean avenue. Absolutely, William. I agree with you. We want no residue, no byproducts. All right.
Yeah. That's why we need to be a new creation. Yah didn't say that he was going to make all new things. He said he was going to make all things new. So he's going to get rid of all that unsanctified residue, the junk, the gunk, whatever else settles. Because whatever settles, it's like people who eat treif. They eat the sanitation crew, the crabs, the lobsters, the shrimp, the mollusks and such like that. They're there for a reason. They're all there to mop up after everything else, but we don't eat them. So you don't eat that which is unclean. You don't settle, stay at the bottom, and whatever settles, you gobble it up. Anyway, don't want to end necessarily on that note, because hopefully you're receiving good things and not the treif. So we're grateful once again for you joining us. Very, very thankful, and I hope that you're taking notes. I hope you're making references and come back and visit and get the full gist of what we're talking about. And as next week we actually begin the blessing. This is the prelude to the blessing. We did the teaching before. Now we have the introduction to the blessing. And next week we will go, Yah willing, we will actually go into the blessing, the first 3 words of the first blessing. So amen. This is great. Tov, tov, tov. So, any final words, Herman, or are we done?
Please, folks, come back next week and rejoice with us, and we will rejoice with you. I'm grateful for the opportunity, Bob, as always, that you give me. And just come back. Come back, y'all.
Back, y'all. Patricia. Would you please do us the honor, young lady, of saying the final prayer for the evening?
Okay.
I can't hear you, sister. Are you there? Okay, hold 1 second. Still don't hear you, Pat. Still not hearing you.
Don't know why.
There it is.
Okay, there we go.
There you go. Okay, you're coming through now. Nice now.
Father Elohim, in the name of Yeshua, we thank you that we could come together this Wednesday night to open up. We praise you and honor you for who you are.
Yes.
We thank you for the many blessings you bestow upon us each day. Bless them, family here. Father, we thank you for your word that changes hearts and draws in your secret place, secret give us peace of glory, honor, and praise in Yeshua's name.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Pat. We have to see if we can adjust that. Thank you, Pat. Amen. So,
I thought it sounded like she wanted to say something there at the end.
yeah, did you want to say something else, Pat? We can really barely hear you. Okay, that's the music. It's no good. Okay. So again, we thank you for watching over us, and please join us each Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. And then coming this Shabbat, we will be here also at 11 a.m., ready and raring to go. And we're running out of time for this year. We're in the 12th month. We have 2 weeks left to go. So be with us. Just finishing up a study on the Rosh Chodesh, which is the head of the months, and all the symbolism. And I'm finding a lot of things in the heavens that are giving us the right indication of the date. And it's really interesting stuff. So again, we thank you, Toda Rabah, and we say Shalom, Shalom. Be strong, be powerful, be faithful to Yah and to each other. And also we say Toda Rabah. We say thank you so much. And we say Laila Tov, Ulehi Traot. We say good night and Lehi Traot, which is we're going to check you out further down the line, okay? Be well and be healthy, be strong and be safe. And we say Shalom, Shalom.